Hi, this is JoJo with Hookup Baits podcast, and today we have a special guest, Josh Henderson, and he's a good friend of Tom's.
Peacock skate.
Why don't we start, Josh, by telling the listeners where you grew up?
I grew up in Santa Cruz, California.
Okay. And what was childhood like?
Childhood was cool, just skating around, fishing. I got into fishing super young, so riding bikes, skateboarding, fishing the creeks and ponds and harbor and just everything. Just riding bikes every day to different fishing spots.
Wow.
So what was your like when you started fishing? Were you fishing freshwater, or who was your little crew? How'd you get introduced?
So I think there's a harbor right by 26 Beach, and directly across there's a pond that's kind of brackish water but more fresh. So there's largemouth bass in there, but me and my brother mostly fish the harbor for the little rock bass, and we get rubber lip perch and eels and all kinds of stuff for the longest time. And then one day we were walking past the pond and we saw largemouth bass spawning on the shores, and then it was like it completely changed. We fished the harbor for years, and then we saw those bass, and then there were some older guys that we saw fishing like these plastic lizards, and they turned us onto them. It's crazy because I still have some of those packs of lizards I bought like 25 years ago.
I am a hoarder too. I've got all kinds of old stuff. That's funny. That's like the opposite for me. I did a little salt, but I was really into freshwater, and then I just crossed over to salt now. So, but you were telling me about your grandpa introducing you to fishing, and a pretty funny story about that.
So I think that was actually technically my first time fishing. My grandpa would take, I wish I remember where it was, because we used to go camping with him when we were kids once a year, and I remember catching bluegill when I was really, really little, fishing off a dock, and I was super into trying to catch alligator lizards and everything. They found a pile of dried out cow shit and told me it was a lizard nest, so I carried around this pile of cow showing the rest of my family all day, look at this lizard nest.
Score! That's so awesome. Yeah.
So I think that's where it first started for the bluegill, and I wish I remember what really got me and my brother so into fishing the harbor, but it was me and my brother and then this kid Chad, and we just every day at the harbor, and then the SoCal Creek too. We'd hike for miles. We'd ride our bikes and like lock it to a fence, and then we'd just hike for miles and just see the craziest stuff. I remember finding this deer carcass. It looked like it'd been just mauled by a mountain lion.
And you're like, dude, we're next on the menu.
My mom was pretty strict with some things.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta wear a helmet when you're riding your bike or skating across town, but she'd be like, there were no cell phones, or like we didn't even have pagers or anything, and we just hike all day.
You got to wear a helmet, but Lion Country's cool.
We'd find some holes and get some pretty big steelhead and stuff.
Yeah. And your brother, I've met your brother, Wicked Bass, right? Isn't that his Instagram?
Yeah.
He's a real fishy guy as well. So it's like he's got the Santa Cruz area on lock right now, and you've got the SoCal area on lock.
But then he'll come down here
and barge.
He'll come down here and like beat me at my own spots a lot of the time. I'm like, God damn it! Like I'll outfish him when he's down here sometimes, but then he'll end up getting the biggest one.
So fishing wise, funny thing was I met you, and it wasn't through fishing. I was on this like I'm gonna start skating again thing, and it was my birthday, and I had seen that you and Mark. Actually, I didn't even know you yet. Mark had been posting some stuff about digging out the Paula pool. So I was like, oh, it's on. I never got to skate the kidney. I only skated the square pool. And my brother always skated the kidney as a kid in Paula. So I was super excited to try to go skate it. And Mark posted a clip that was like a gotcha clip of an old when the bowl was dug out.
Oh,
so
I remember
we
did that to bait people to show up and force them to help dig.
It worked. I showed up. I did bring a shovel and a wheelbarrow, but I also rolled up and I put pads on because at the time I was like trying to get back in and I wanted to kill myself. I put pads on. I hadn't even walked over, and Josh walks up. And I'm sure he's like, "Who's this dork? It's so full of dirt, dude." And then he's like, "It's not dug out yet." I was like, "Oh, well then I'll help dig." So I helped dig, and then I was like, just the whole vibe with the crew you had there and everybody, like, I'm like, this is awesome. I told Cash, and he's like, oh, I want to go. So we went back, and that's how we became friends. Was he dug out the pool, and then I got to see you and Dave and T, my old neighbor Tyler. We're all filming all these, got all this rad footage from it, and you shot Levi's commercial there, and you could hear me and Cash in the background. Cash a little high voice. It was like, but no, it's really cool to get that experience. And then that's how we met. I started following him on Instagram. I was like, well, this dude films skateboarding good, and I really liked your style. Is kind of like this punk rock, quick moving style of just. There's like a signature to how you film. Like when I see stuff, I'm like, I bet Peacock shot that. And then I look and I'm like, yeah, he got it, you know. So that was cool. And then Josh realized we fished a lot. So he's like, hey, where you been fishing? So there's like a code of the streets in skateboarding, and it's the same in fishing. And it's like, it's not my secret to tell, right? So I got brought to a spot that wasn't my secret to tell, and we were catching good fish. And Josh's like, where is it? And I was like, oh, it's here. And then we'd take them there, we'd fish, and we'd do all right. It's here.
No, so Mark took me there first, and then you guys showed up.
We were
and
there.
And then I think that first time that I ran into you there was the time that Cash
almost drowned.
That was heavy.
Yeah.
And
but so he shows up at the spot, and I'm like, dude. And then I was like, it was like this weight had been lifted because the guy that we were like keeping a secret, you know, and the guy that brought us there brought him there. So now I was like, cool, now we can come fish this place together. But yeah, and Cash fell in and almost died. I like dove in the water and got him. He was like almost drowning.
He was wearing those like high, like knee high
garden boots.
Yeah, so they filled up with water. And I was fishing on their side of the pond. I just saw Tom running full speed and just swan dive into the pond. I'm like, what in the fuck is he doing?
It was gnarly. And then you actually, I had to just keep Cash at the side till he was able to pull him up. But yeah, that was wild. But that was how we started fishing together. And then so
we barged the golf course for catfish.
Right. We went. I talked to our catfish spot, and he caught the biggest catfish anyone's ever caught there. The 12 or 14 pounder. We're like, yeah. And then Josh is like really high energy. When we go do stuff, he's super fun to be with. So I could see how he has such a good retention on going skating with people and filming them because it's just so fun, you know? Everybody piles in his van and you're like, oh, let's go fishing. When you go fishing with someone, usually you go hit a spot. Josh is like, okay, we're done with this one. Let's go to that one. And I know another one here. I know another one there. And I think it's from his the whole like permission / barging that you have to do for skating. He got so good at getting in all these like super private spots, and he's like, I got the in over here, I got the in over there. So then now we're fishing all these spots, and it's just a riot. But
that's why it's hard when you've been trying to get me to saltwater for so long. I'm like, that's such a commitment. I got to get on a boat and go out on the ocean, and if the bite sucks, I'm stuck there for hours. I have so many different spots around my zone. I'm like, oh, the bite sucks here. I'm going to the next.
Well, today's the day. We're going to get to take Josh out on the bay after this, so we're pretty stoked to do that. But for filming, though, you know, like I said, there's totally like a style. I mean, Josh is actually the person that turned me on to anything that I do know about filming. And he gave me this little formula. And this is the formula. No, it's not. I can't tell you. But he did break down, like, this is why it looks this way. Like, nobody wants to sit there and watch someone for 10 minutes, like, just comping and grinding, you know? Like, everybody's attention span's very short. So keep it quick, move through stuff, B-roll stuff, bring them in, and, like, set it up. And I'm like, oh. So, you know.
I have so much stuff on my hard drives that I think looks cool, just like scenic stuff of trips I go on in different fishing. And I'm like, I'd never show it to anyone because to most people this would probably be super boring. All these landscape shots and birds. And
how did the filming start for you? Like, how did the filming start? And did it start before skateboarding? Or
like my mom was super into photography, so I think that's kind of where...
Stills?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I got it because she was always shooting photos of us as kids. And then growing up watching the Zero videos, I think like Welcome to Hell was the video in, I don't even remember. I was probably 8th grade or something when that came out. And just watching that on repeat. And then we wanted to film video parts. So I think we borrowed a camera from the school that the battery didn't work. So we'd just skate around. I told you this. We'd skate around and just find alleys or spots where there was a power outlet. We'd just run a long extension cord with this big VHS camera. And then back then, there was no way of editing. So you had to do VCR to VCR cuts, which looked like crap. And then I signed up for the Santa Cruz channel. Like there was a Santa Cruz local television station. So I got to use a real editing bay. And I was supposed to give the stuff to them like I'm editing a show for them. But I just keep the copy. I think maybe I gave him it, but I'd go there and use their resources and keep it. And I did that for years, but I didn't really know anything about filming. I'd film my friends. I'd film all this crazy party hijinks stuff.
Yeah. But
then 2008, during the recession, I don't know how it happened, but the New York Times contacted me to do a story on us skating empty swimming pools at foreclosed houses. And from that, like NBC, BBC, everyone did stories on us and documentaries. And then one of the guys who worked for Fuel TV was following us around and realized I was as into filming as I was skateboarding. And he's like, you film all this crazy stuff, but you film Brocam, and it's not Brocam stuff.
Yeah.
So he gave me a Canon 7D and taught me how to do things right. And he's like, right now you sell some stuff because these companies need it because you're out with their guys. But if you shoot it right, the companies are going to hit you up because they want you to. Yeah. Wow. So it kind of turned into a career on its own. Like, I didn't really know what I was going to do with as far as a career. I was working in grocery stores and doing whatever. I was always a hustler, but I didn't know what I was going to do as a career until I was like 27, maybe.
Yeah, so I was wondering, it's like, where's the end of the diving board when you're like, I don't need the grocery store job. I don't need that. Dude, I can line this up. Dude, I'm going to line this up, and this is what I'm going to do. So
well, I remember working at the grocery store. I didn't take it that serious. I worked night crew, and I remember my boss giving me a hard time because I wasn't stocking the shelves quick enough. And he's like, this is my career, blah. I'm like, whatever, dude. This is not my career. I don't know.
I could almost predict the response. Like, yeah, whatever, guys. Whatever.
I'm pretty sure I left that night and went home and ended up quitting a couple weeks later. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it ain't this. This guy's giving me crap about this grocery store being his career and me not taking it serious enough. Like,
this guy's a dork. I don't want to be this guy.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. So, in filming too, like, I was always super jealous. He'd be like, because I usually just touch base with you about where we want to fish, when are we going to fish? You know, he's like, well, I got Brazil this one, I got this, that one, and that was when you were linked up with the Vans tour.
Yeah.
So was Vans tour like the first big retention, or I know you did Barracks before that, or what was your first?
So the
big
Barracks
thing?
bought the skateboard mag, but Dave Swift, I was shooting all the pools. Dave was the editor and one of the owners of the skateboard mag, and I was doing stuff for them, just like monthly edits, which turned into a retainer. And then the Barracks bought the skateboard mag, and from there I ended up getting a full-time position, but it was kind of short-lived. A bunch of people got laid off. Yeah, so then it went back to freelancing again, and I'd been doing stuff for Red Bull and brands like that, but then Ricky Bedenbaugh, who's an amazing filmer, he got hit up to be like kind of the head of the filmers for the Vans Park series, and he's like, oh, like, we'd never met much. We'd ran into each other at events, but we followed each other on Instagram. It's the same thing. Like, this is kind of like Peacock's thing. He films pool skating.
This is your style.
Yeah, he'd be perfect for this. So that's how I got the Vans job, filming the highlight reels for the Vans Park series.
Yeah, all the Vans Park series I'd watch, and it was mainly just to try to spot out a backwards hat with cut off Dickie shorts and a black shirt. That's his uniform, dude, wherever we went. And so that I was like, oh, there's Josh, you know. Oh yeah, sorry, that it was like Pedro or something, do some gnarly thing. I'm like, that's Josh, you know. But you know, so I could see how it just seems like you always have a really good, I don't know if you have the selection or people bring them to you because you know it's fun, but like, you know, especially with the youth, like CJ, you had so much cool stuff with CJ, and you know, now you're doing oh my gosh, I just forgot her name, the girl that you were doing the Olympics, Sky. You were doing stuff with Sky, but like I could see how like Josh is fun. I want to go film with him. You know, like we do. It's a good vibe when we're out, and you get good stuff out of it.
I'm pretty particular too with my own missions because, you know, I drive the van, and then I got the stuff that I got to do for certain clients. But the people who are on the van trips, I'm pretty, if you don't respond when I hit you up, I'm not going to hit you up.
You're out. So they almost qualify themselves. Like
yeah,
if
you're fun to be around and you're not trying to play some, I don't know. I'm just
or whatever. Yeah, you've been through a lot.
No, if you could just roll with the crew that I roll with, because it's a pretty rowdy crew. If you could hang in the van and you're on time, you know, people get some chances. But if I call a few times to invite you out and you say you're going to be there and you don't show up, I just stop calling. So that's why you see it's like a pretty regular crew that I'm out with.
Sounds very familiar to going out on the boat or whatever. You know, there's only certain people that operate well together, and you're not going to build a weak crew just because you're trying to get some guy on there. So that's cool though. But yeah, and then today I can't wait to take you fishing. You've never caught a spotted bay bass? Or have you?
I mean, I've caught all the little rock bass in the harbor in Santa Cruz.
They're both up north. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So past Point Conception,
no, it's totally different.
Spotties.
Like down here, you know, because Santa Cruz, you're catching salmon and stuff. Out here, you go get tuna.
Right. Tuna, yellowtail, and bass and all that. So I can't wait till you catch a bass because Josh is a really good largemouth bass fisherman. He is a grinder, dude. He goes, when you go to a spot, like, we did a lot of shore pounding together, but he has a little skiff too. He's got a little aluminum skiff, so that was a little later in it. But we'd all land in a spot, and I'll tell you, just like the hand on the clock, dude, Josh just starts freaking going around the shoreline. You know, hey, you go, I want to get some fresh water. I got to get ahead of him. You know, screw it, I'm going the other way.
We got a really good bite at this spot the other day, where it ended up just being mostly shore fishing. I was pulling up. You know the spot, but there's multiple spots at the spot. You know the spot I fish all the time. So we go to the smaller spot that's at that spot that was totally mossed over recently, and we're like, let's just go check it because the other spot, all the wakeboarders and stuff are showing up. We pull up, and right when I pull up before I unload my boat, there's all this splashing, and there's a dude in a float tube right there. I'm like, oh, the carp are going crazy right now, huh? I've never seen this guy before either, and he's like, those are bass. Get the fuck on the water. That's what he said to me. I'm like, do you mind if I cast right here? And I was like, looking at there was still a full moon in the sky. I'm like, I've never seen more bait fish pushed against the shore. And for like 4 hours, there were huge bass, just wolf pack. And I was filming them, sending it to my brother, like just filming the water. You can see thousands of bait fish. And my brother's like, I'm buying a ticket. I'll fly out Tuesday. But it only lasted one day. But I was just spot fishing 4s and 5s. You could just see him cruising. Really? And it was like one of the best bites I've ever had out there.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you saw my story the other day when I posted like quite a few sizable bass, but it was...
Honestly, I have seen a lot of the stuff you've been doing, but Instagram in general has just become 100% polluted. On my, it's like,
oh my God,
I don't know
so
what it is.
now.
It's like I thought I had, like I'm following people that I didn't follow. You
get all this stuff in your feed now. They've ruined Instagram. I miss when the algorithm was like in chronological order, and you just saw the people you follow.
Your buddies.
Now you say fishing around your phone, and it shows you all this bullshit that you don't even want to see.
It gets it gets you trying to sell all this stuff.
Am I allowed to cuss on here? Am I cussing too much?
No, we're
try to keep it.
I think
there might be a little
I think you
sound.
Just can't do it 5 minutes in, right? As long as you wait 5 minutes, I think that you.
Hey, you're the pro. You're the pro.
I made sure not to cuss for 5 minutes.
That's a sailor's year, you know. So, but that's.
Nicole tries to get me to church it up sometimes. Comb your hair, dress different, talk different. I'm like, my clients don't give.
No, I noticed. I noticed when you and Nicole got together, you got a little more clean cut. And his wife does hair, and she is the only.
I had a buzzed head forever. Remember?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how you got the name Peacock.
I was just gonna ask. Yes.
So I had a mohawk that I dyed a bunch of different colors, only for like a day, and we were draining the pool. And my friends went out to the car for something. They can see the top of my hair from over the fence, and they're like, you look like a peacock. So they called me that to heckle me. And I literally only had that hair color for maybe 2 days. Like, it was literally like I just did it to be stupid.
And how old were you?
And then shaved it off. 19. I didn't even get that nickname until I was 19.
Wow.
But then all the kids at the Vagabond pool, we had an empty, the abandoned hotel, the Vagabond, that we built all this DIY around, and all the kids would help out with the DIY, and they all started calling me Peacock. And it just stuck. The worst is when I do a job for a new client, wait forever for the check, and Josh Peacock. I'm like, I can't even cash it.
Oh my God.
I've had it happen so many times.
That's not good.
Wow.
Not good. So what is like the gnarliest, like you maybe moment you didn't realize was going to be just insane that turned out to like in retrospect being like, dude, I just got freaking gold here, you know?
Dude, I'm so desensitized by it now that it's like I'm around it all the time. It's hard. Like
Wow.
it's crazy. Like if you asked me that 6 years ago, I probably still could have gave you an answer, but now it's like I shoot the craziest stuff all the time and just see. And when you think it can't get any heavier, then this new 14-year-old comes. Like the progression now, especially with it being in the Olympics, is nuts. And just how divided it is, because you have kind of the just video part guys, and
the
then
hardcore
you have these
dudes
contest skaters like Deshaun or Yuto or Nisha or you know some of the best. But Nisha still does. Nisha, Deshaun, Yuto actually do both. So those were actually bad examples. But you have these.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, you got some guys that are just groomed for the circuit. Other guys that just party hard and do gnarly slams and do gnarly tricks. And, you know, they may, you know, they're like the Rob Machado. You know, Rob Machado doesn't do contests. He just surfs. He's like a free surfer, you know, but he makes a living off surfing. Yeah. You know, so some people can do that just based off their reputation and things like that. And others are just plugged into the whole league, you know, and they're making a franchise.
It's just crazy how different it is now than it was when we were coming up, right?
Yeah, and then
you grew
to
up
see
skating too. It's
in medicine or whatever it is now too, because you got guys like Tony Hawk and Cab that are older and they've
skateboarding wasn't old enough for there to be guys that age doing it when we were young.
That's a good point.
But also,
but
people look at it as a
slams.
Sport now. Like people actually go to physical therapy and they actually ice.
Like
I don't know if you were different, but when I was a kid, I'd go, you know, roll my ankle. It's this big. I wouldn't use ice. I wouldn't go to PT. I'd just
use your skate as a crutch and hope your mom doesn't see you go down the hall.
Just lay around and sneak pound some natty ice in my room.
I didn't even think of that skateboarding wasn't old enough to have OGs like that, you know. Because like Tony Hawk just broke his femur and he's back in it. Cap broke his femur and he's back in it. And you think about it, like...
Well, that's why it's funny when you have someone... It doesn't happen as much now, but, you know, even 10 years ago, you get people like, aren't you too old to skateboard? And they're wearing like a sports ball hat. And you're like, aren't you too old for sports ball? It's like both these
How many homers have you hit lately, guy?
Both these things were started by kids.
Yeah.
You know, just those are older. Skateboarding's, it's the same exact thing.
That's a good point. That is true. I didn't even think of it like that. I mean, I grew up in... like 80s street skating was like my thing, like the late 80s, like 89. And since I was in SoCal, I lived in San Marcos, Vista was right there. And just the history alone of 8th Street, you know, before Blind with Sheffy and Hensley and, you know, all these guys that just skated town in Vista. There's literally like East Vista Way was lined with curb cuts and hydrants and stuff like that were just like legendary to other people because it was like skateboarding was like this big, you know, at that time.
Well, I even remember growing up watching, go to the Zero videos, which was like later 90s.
Right.
But Southern California, you knew like all these schools with these rails and stuff. Like Santa Cruz, there wasn't nothing to skate.
Right.
And anything that was to skate, you'd get I got so many tickets when I was a kid, just like skating across town, not even ruining someone's property by skating a curb or anything. Literally just skating across town. Cops would just pull you over and give you a ticket for not having a... I grew up in Capitola. It was like a little small town in Santa Cruz. We called it Capitola. We knew all the cops by name. They all fucked with us for nothing.
They all knew you by name.
Yeah, but I wasn't even doing anything. I was just right... It's like...
Oh, I know. I was right there with you, dude. It was like... I would ask them, so... why do you even make a skateboard? Where can I skateboard? And they'd be like, in front of your house on the sidewalk. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I had this awesome little juicy little school right by my house, and it was brand new school, and there was a 6 out of 8, and then after the 8 there was a 3 stair, and then a big black flat top. There was ledges and benches, and it had like every little flavor you wanted. So it was right at the end of our street, and we'd skate it all the time. So I saw a lot of cool stuff go down there as a kid skating, and And then we would always go out. The bus was like our thing, because I lived in kind of a residential area in San Marcos, had that school right down the street, but all the urban areas were the best. Like we would go downtown wherever, downtown Escondido on the bus, downtown Vista on the bus. We'd go to San Diego.
Dude, that stuff's the best. I'd rally my friends when we were young, when we'd have that VHS with the extension cord, and same thing. We'd ride the bus everywhere. We'd ride the bus to Watsonville, Aptos, and we just look for spots.
Yeah,
I feel like kids don't do that anymore.
It's all right here. They're like, oh, you could probably Google whatever any spot was.
And there's just so many skate parks now that it's like you don't have to do that.
Well, and we're building quarters and boxes with, and rails and things to skate because there was nothing to skate. You know? But that's what's awesome about the skate parks. Like most of the skate parks that I skated as a kid were just so whack because I was a street skater and I'm like, no thanks. Like the first Carlsbad skate park is horrible.
Same in Santa Cruz. We grew up with Derby, which is
cool. Though. It's a snake
like
run.
A snake run, but
yeah.
literally it's like how many times can you go up and down the snake run?
Right.
Some people worship that place, but I'm like,
it's probably because they've seen the clips and the history of it.
Yeah.
They didn't have to skate it every day and realize it was like, oh.
I've had more fun doing non-skate stuff there.
Yeah, getting into trouble, lighting bonfires or something, stupid stuff.
My friend bought this minivan that the dude just lagged to give him the pink slip, so he's like, screw this. He jumped into the bowl once I built like the ramp up the back and tried to carve the snake around the minivan and got it stuck there. And the dude who never gave him the pink slip, I think, got the ticket.
That was like the Isuzu that ended up in the Hesher Bowl. Well, how did that happen? Do you know the story on that?
No, you see so many videos
I saw
like that
a picture
on Instagram
of a car
now.
in the what do they call it? I called it the Hesher, but it was the Clinton Keith Bowl.
Dude, that was one of those off-roader guys. He did that on purpose.
And he got out, or
I think they had to get pulled out, but I think he thought, how they climbed the rocks with those crazy. I think that dude just thought he was going to be able to drive up the wall.
It's like, nope.
I was pretty stoked when I saw that. I'm like, this guy rules.
That's rad.
People were so bummed though.
Yeah. So I mean, that's also the other thing about timing of skateboarding is everything. With especially spots like that go away, like when you're barging pools and things like that. So we're gonna take a break here, and when we get back, we'll kind of talk about how that works out and the things that present the opportunities for the places you go. You know?
For sure.
So cool.
We'll be right back. Thanks. Hi, this is JoJo with Hookup Baits Podcast, and we're back with Josh and Tom. And tell us a little bit more about the spots, secret spots, and how you guys find them. Clearly, you know where they're at.
So fishing and skating, because they both kind of tie in to a similar formula. Like, if a pool gets drained, or if the house goes vacant and you're gonna drain it, you've only got a certain window, just like fishing. So like, how's that work out, and what's like when you see something, what like fires you up? What are you like? Oh, we gotta check this out.
I guess just anything unique that looks different, because people get tired of seeing the same looking stuff. So if you see just a new unique looking spot or pool or ditch or even a rail that everything hasn't been, it's so hard to find stuff in Southern California that everything hasn't been done on.
Right.
Like all of the best pros are here. Even the ones from other countries all move here. So
right.
I actually hate filming in Southern California. I hate it. That's why I go to like Victorville and Fresno and places like that. All these inland, just run down places, so I could just find new stuff and new looking areas. I get so burnt on.
Or some old haggard thing that just looks gnarly.
You find something down here, you take one person, then they tell the wrong photographer or someone try to go, but it's just blown out. I barely even try down here.
Just like a fishing spot, they get burnt quick.
Yeah.
So, and then in the same thing, you got like every spot in the world I've ever could imagine. It's funny because when we got together, you'd be like, "Hey, have you fished this?" I'm like, "Back in the day," and you're like, next thing you know, you're like in on it. So, you were mentioning you got spots like everywhere, and you've got 3 boats, right? So what's up with the 3 boats, and what do you do with them?
Well, they're all pieces of junk. I mean, actually, the tracker was pretty cool, and there's a funny story behind that one because I hadn't looked on OfferUp in a minute, and then right before this last spawn for bass, like coming up on spring, I'm like, I want to get another boat to keep at this other lake that I have a key to. That way, I can keep one at each spot. That way, I'm not having to. If I want to just, last minute go out there, I don't got to drive all the way over here, load up that boat, then go there. So I look on OfferUp, I find this boat, like an old Tracker 12 or whatever, which, those are awesome. Those are like the Tacomas of John boats.
They never die.
So I find this thing, it was only like $200. Go buy it off this dude in the pouring rain, and chatting with him. He was really cool. So I was just standing in the pouring rain talking to him for a while. Buy this thing. It didn't have the paperwork. And then I was at one of the spots that I have a key to that actually I didn't have an HOA card yet. I was barging this spot. And right when you're supposed to have stickers on the boat. People know if you're not supposed to be there. So the boat wasn't registered there yet. And I'm on the boat. And this security's driving on the causeway trying to like holler at me, and I'm just acting like I don't hear him, looking off into the distance, and I just cruise back into these bushes and just duck down. And my friend that was parking the truck, I'm like, "Hey, the security's on to me." I'm like, "Just park the truck and walk down the bank a ways, and I'll pick you up."
Yeah, we're not aborting, just different plan.
Yeah. So he does that. He gets on the boat. We escape the security. But then this dickhead water skier let the fucking Marine police on his boat and then drove him out to us, dude.
You.
I got a $750 ticket because they just ticketed me for all this stuff. And then I come back in, and then the dude's like trying to act like he's our friend, like, "Oh, I didn't want to say in front of him." I'm like, "Shut the fuck! Why are you even trying to talk to me? You let a cop on your boat, you fucking scumbag."
You just brought him to
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So anyways, made a short story long, got off topic there.
So that's one.
So I got the ticket there, and I'm like, I got to make this boat legal here because I got to fish here during spawn. So I go back on OfferUp, look up the dude's name so I could write out a fake bill of sale and go take it to like a title place.
Right.
And I look at the dude's name, and I remember seeing the dude, and I remember seeing the dude on Ruby Lily's Instagram. It was Ruby Lily, this girl who I film with at all the contests and stuff. It was her dad.
No.
Randomly.
So you knew how to get a hold of him now.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even have to. I just wrote up the fake bill of sale, and the thing had never been registered since it was bought. So the DMV was just like...
Oh, it's like a new title.
It was like, they just gave me a new title, and now I'm all legit there. And I have my other boat that I keep at this other spot.
The barger.
Yeah. That thing's another just piled. I got OfferUp for $140. Best $140 I've ever spent.
Is that the little aluminum?
The little aluminum one. But they're both perfect. So they're both only 4 feet wide, so I'm able to slide them into the back of my Tacoma.
If you got to get super
it's so funny because
dodgy.
the cars stay so far behind me on the road. The thing's sticking out because I have the short bed 4-door Tacoma, so those things are 12 feet long.
So it was built for them. Your truck was built to carry boats.
But then, and then I got this. It's called a duck boat, but it basically looks like a Hobie 2-seat kayak. And I keep that one actually at my house. So next year's spawn, I'm going to be at Hodges every Wednesday with that one. And then I got my other two at my other spots.
You got them all over. So
I haven't even fished Hodges yet, but you were sending me the photos of some of the ones people were getting there. And I know that place used to hold the record, right?
It has. There's a lot of lakes in San Diego that have held the California record, and Hodges was one. Miramar was one. I don't. This is when I was young. My dad would always tell me that has over
because we did
20
but
pound bass.
I guess the thing about Hodges though is the genetics of the bass in there just. They grow to 15 pounds without being an overly trout-stocked lake. Like a lot of these lakes around here that have the giants.
Trout feeders. Yeah, no, I know that lake was hot this year, man. It just seemed like I saw a tournament, someone I know that fishes tournaments posted that they did it and they did pretty well there.
One kid posted like 5/8 in one day.
Right. And then after that, I looked at the tournament, what everybody turned in, and everybody had big fish.
It's like 60-pound bags.
Big bags. I was like, holy cow. And then I told you, I was like, dude, if you're gonna hit a spot, check this out, And then I just kept seeing all the.
It was just the end of
kids
spawn by the time I saw that one kid got that 12,
Yeah.
and then my buddy went out there on the float tube, and
My brother lives right by it, and he's
the
been
bite had
fishing
already
it.
been so good at the other spots I was hitting. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like grinding swim baits in 60 feet of water.
Right. You gotta
right
you
now
gotta
when I-
you gotta choose your battles.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with skating though, like you've been working on solo projects. I know you were telling me at one point you wanted to put together like a documentary type film about skating and pool skating, and you always see it like pooling around is like something that's always brought up when I see your stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's one of your
Pigeonholed myself. It was like accidental marketing, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you make yourself different? You just do something everyone else isn't doing.
right.
I didn't even do that on purpose. Just no one else gives a shit, and I do. So.
Yeah. But now you're working on a documentary, right? To try to
Worst thing I've ever done. It's like,
the commitment, yeah.
it's just I'm already so busy. I can't wait to see it done, but
Yeah.
it's just been. It's hard, dude. It's a hustle, like just finding the time to do these trips, to finish it off, and then just trying to raise the. I look at it. It's like restoring a hot rod.
Right.
You're just this passion project that you're just dumping all this money into that you're never gonna see a return on investment, and it's not about that. When I first started, it's like. This is just going to be a passion project. I've always wanted to do this, even if it just lives on YouTube.
Right.
But then you put so much love and blood, sweat, and tears into it that you're like, I don't want this to just be on you. Like,
Right.
I want everyone to see it.
This
I'm
is
trying
bigger,
to make it for a bigger audience. And I've had just all these leads that, like, that at one point I had a meeting with all the bigwigs at the LA Times, and they were talking about co-producing it with me. And I just have all these highs and lows of these big leads that just go nowhere, and I'm just like, why did I even start?
And now you're stuck in the middle of it going for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's towards the end. I need to finish it, and I just want to raise some money so I can take everyone who's been involved since the start on some awesome trips where I'm not, dumping a bunch of money out of my own pocket or asking anyone to chip, or a lot of the time we'll camp. Like, one of the last trips we did for it, I took everyone. We were filming around Fresno. I'm like, oh, I know this dope spot in the Sierras where we could go camp.
By a fishing spot.
Yeah, by the fishing spot. But also, I camp enough to have the right gear. Like, I'm just like, bring sleeping bags. And I'm all set. It was 27 degrees and all these people were freezing.
Don't you have a Pabst Blue Ribbon tent?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That thing's done now. The last 2 times I used it, I had to bust out the electrical tape and tape the tent poles back together because they were all busted. I'm like, I got to buy some new tent poles for it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So when you're on location filming, you are often camping out or doing whatever you have to do to stay.
A lot of the time, and it was funny for this project in particular, I was telling these other filmmakers who were working on a big documentary, I'm like, oh, I was texting with them about something. We're camping. They're like, how do you camp while doing that? I'm like, oh, these people are such pussies. Now I'm going to do this at a point, bring my power generator just to charge batteries overnight and do this whole thing camping. But I want to be able to take all the talent that's been coming along on some awesome trips, get them in some good Airbnbs and feed them well.
Well, grinding it like that and camping and all that
builds character.
And it also puts you in an arena where other people aren't going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that maybe give you an edge into, getting off the grid of every spot that everybody's seen.
Once people have figured out how you could have so much fun without spending a bunch of money. You don't got to go to Dave and Buster's or do some brainless stuff to go have fun. And people, since COVID happened, have figured that out. Now everyone loves camping and fishing. Now all my off-the-grid spots where I just go camp in the middle of national forest, a bunch of people know about. And all those fishing holes where I used to be able to go get some native brown trout, they all got ate. They're gone.
Yeah.
That's true.
People fried them up.
But it's cool. It's cool turning people onto that. I always bring my 3-piece travel rod on the trips we do. If we're camping, I'll get up early and start fishing, and then some of the people are in their tents that are on the trip with me, hear me fishing, they're like, oh, what's up? And I only have one pole. I'm like, I'm just so stoked to see them get into it. It's crazy how many people that are young adults have taken on their first camping trip.
That's awesome.
And turned on to fishing for their first time, and they stick with it. And they like to do it, and then they're going back and buying all their own gear and taking their girlfriends camping to these spots. I've always,
That's
telling
awesome.
people like, go here, and there's a cool sequoia grove here, and a waterfall here, and
and
this
then
and that.
The next trip you go on, you like realize they kind of like know what they're doing, and they're setting up their tent or whatever. They know now they're like little outdoorsmen.
I don't gotta play dad anymore.
Gosh.
Well, I took, because I'm a stepdad, and I took Nicole's kids camping. As soon as I was in the picture, I'd take them on all these camping trips.
Yeah.
I showed them how to set up and break down their tent the first time, and I'm like, pay attention, because it's the only time I'm doing it. And now, they're in Boy Scouts and stuff going on camping trips, and they're showing all the other campers. They're like way ahead. They're showing them all how to do it.
Each one teach one, son.
Yeah. I remember the first time I went fishing with you, and you didn't realize I had fished my whole life and kind of been on a hiatus, and you're like, do you need me to tie knots for you? I'm like,
oh, God.
What kind of man do you think I am?
Hey, dude, Cash was little at that time, and we were like, I don't know. When I brought Cash into it, like when you bring a kid, sometimes it's just like you bring a bunch of stuff you don't even need. You know what I mean? Like a couple different setups because, something blows up, and you want to just keep them rolling because you want them to have fun.
Yeah.
But that's funny. You're like, do you want me to tie it out for you?
Remember
I
the
didn't
spot
know
when
you were
I
as
first
fishy
started
as you
getting
were.
heavily into bass fishing again? When we had that empty pool in Hemet.
Oh, yes.
We could talk about this because
it's gone.
Diamond Valley Golf Course, and it was going under. Now it's totally under. The ponds have totally dried up. But remember, there were the three.
Yeah.
We were catching so many fish. Remember, we'd go there in like the last 45 minutes of daylight, creep over the hill from the back way so the people in the clubhouse wouldn't see us. And we'd get like, even the kids, we'd get like 20 or 30 each.
A lot of fish out of there.
That was insane.
And Cash was so excited about that, let's go out there. And you get like, fishing freshwater in ponds. Catching is one thing, finding another spot is another thing, and then like being introduced to a different style of fishing, it's like there's so many layers, and like that was one where you're like, oh yeah, I was filming skate clips and there was a fire and I saw a helicopter picking up water, so I was like, I know there's some over there, I'm gonna go try it out,
Dude, in my first cast over there, I got like a 3-pound bass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, this place is
And that
awesome.
place was hot. We would pull a lot of fish out of there. It was really happening. So it's a bummer to see it come and go. So, I mean, same thing like in skating when I was, like the whole big explosion, like the Dogtown days was the drought. The big drought opened up all the pools, and now everybody's looking over the fence for a pool to skate. Or like in my age, like development of all the schools. Like when I went to school, they were horrible, dude. Here in SoCal, it was like a bunch of portables laid out on a flat asphalt thing, and now there's all this rad architecture in schools and the buildings that everybody builds. So it's like the progression.
But it's
of
harder
everything.
to get into them now.
Oh yeah.
Now it's all high security because when we were kids, schools weren't loaded with all the computers and stuff. Right. Now, like schools are, it's harder to sneak in. Like some of them got alarms and stuff. Like even just getting on the campus, they got giant barbed wire fences, like it's like escaping prison getting into those things.
They build schools like prisons. Dude, downtown LA, because I do construction, and downtown LA, like off of 4th, we were working with a builder that we were doing a small TI on a building, which is a tentative improvement to make it a working office. And it was down in like the garment district or textile district is where it was. And, when I was walking the site with the super, I asked him, I was like, so, looking around, I'm like, building a school? He goes, no, I'm building a prison. He goes, I've built prisons. I'm building a prison right here. You're not going to be able to go around any little wall that jets out. There's going to be human feces there. Anything goes around, there's going to be a human sleeping there. It's like, dude, like he's like legit. And then he saw all the open space is going to be on top. And I'm like, wow, trip out. So they do. They build them want them hard to be
Southern California is crazy, man.
Yeah.
I've lived all over California, and it's a trip down here.
Yeah, I'm kind of pigeonholed into SoCal. I haven't really been out. I mean, I've been up to NorCal a little bit, did a little surfing up there, but it's kind of like in my little, I'm like stuck in this little zone,
Yeah.
So, but in all the travels you're doing, in all that, getting up north and then you're kind of not as urban. Now, what are you looking for when you're trying to find a spot? Like, you're looking at houses, and I know the fires burnt places down now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a lot what the documentaries about, the whole West Coast has been burning more and more every year. So we're going to towns like Paradise, Santa Rosa burnt down, Malibu. Malibu's Southern California, not up north, but like
I keep
we're
seeing
going.
the Malibu ones.
Yeah, we're going to a lot of those areas, but then also this time of year we love going to the Northwest because it's so hot here, and all through Oregon, Montana, Idaho,
cooler.
Washington. Perfect weather and just these insane parks. Mark Scott, Dreamland Skate Parks, has built these amazing parks that a lot of them you wouldn't get permitted to
They're
build.
huge
build in
compared to here. They're
California because we
big,
just have the
gnarly stuff.
craziest fun police
Right.
ever here, and they get away with just even the skate parks here look like prisons. Most of them are fenced in. Out there,
Yeah.
it's like beautiful landscape backdrops are not fenced in, and you can camp.
Dude, that one you were just at that had the
So
swimming
that's
pool?
private. That's on a giant weed farm.
I was going to ask you
So
about
those
that.
are the other type of places, and we went there, and then I already heard through the grapevine because we tagged the owner to be cool,
Yeah.
and these other people are trying to go out there and shoot. It's like you can't even like do that anymore. It's gotten to the point where you go to a spot. And you take video stories, you just got to save it and
Right.
put it out after you've dropped it because the vultures are
Oh, yeah.
they're just waiting.
If I open my phone right now, it's loaded with fishing pictures. Like, it really is. And like, I honestly post like 3% of the pictures we take. We don't, there's just so much stuff. You're like, I don't want to burn, I hate to say use that, but yeah, dude, I did it as a kid. You had to do that. In a skate mag, I would see, oh, dude,
Backdrops.
backdrop. And then I know,
Landmarks.
like you were saying, Swift, like I knew he lived locally, so his photos, there was like, there might be a good chance that, oh, this is North County. Oh, I can see
But
the
at
hills
least
like
you
that.
still have to do the work.
Right. There was no Google Maps.
Well, now it's like that, an instance like that where it's like it's a private place. And you're
Yeah.
tagging the person because it's super cool that they let you
do
come
it.
out
Yeah.
there. But then all the other vultures are going to go DMing that, hey, I'm friends with so-and-so, name
Right.
dropping to try to get in there. It's like, it's crazy. Like, looking at photos and trying to spot landmarks and stuff, that's cool. At least
Yeah.
you're working. It's part
It's
of the
fun.
adventure. People just try to bypass the whole adventure now,
Right. I still got stuff on my list. Like, actually, I'm bummed. You see my phone, all the marks, my pins from Google.
Yeah.
Like, they all disappeared. I'm like, where are they? Every little dot of water, like on the fresh water, every little possible culvert or skate spot or whatever, I have them all pinned. And it just looks like one big blur. And then when you zoom in, you could see all the different stuff. And then when I'm in the area, I go check them out. Because at one point when Google Maps came out, I just went gnar. And I was like,
same.
That pool's empty. That pool's empty. Dude, this whole neighborhood's hot. Dude,
I've had
I gotta
that
go out
happen
there and
too,
look at
so
it.
I save the pins as contacts. I don't even leave it in Google. I just copy and paste like the address or the longitude, latitude.
Wow.
And I name the spot.
Look at the big brain on you, man.
Yeah. They're there forever.
I
in my
don't
iCloud.
even know why it's not populating. I just noticed it the other day. I was like, oh, dude, what happened to my freaking pins? But yeah,
There's a lot of water out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that's what we do when we fish. I try to not have huge landmarks in the back, but we do well in certain areas, and Cash and I call them spot sniffers. You can see people like sometimes I get pretty angry about it, but I do have a Hookup Baits logo on the side of my boat, so I got to be professional. But there are times when people have zero tact, I was up in LA and we were fishing and we brought a buddy out, it was his birthday. We were going to go, charge it, and we were on a good bite and we rolled up, and the window of opportunity for things is very small. So we rolled up and there was squid. And I saw the squid. I didn't even know there was fish. I'm like, we're getting fish right here. And we just started nailing them. And some big boat, these guys, I was watching them. They weren't looking at their electronics. They weren't looking at anything. They were just looking at us. And they see we're all bent. And there's no one around us. And they just roll right up on us. We had reset our drift. And they roll right on all the squid. And they're going back and forth, like trying to watch us. And just blowing out where all the squid. Then they drop their anchor down through all the squid. And we're like, this spot's done, dude. We're out of here. Let's go find something else. But, for people that are out there, find your own stuff, find your skate spots. make your skate spots. That's the other thing is DIY. People, that's huge. People make their own skate spots. So it's good to like get out there and just barge it and figure something out on your own.
That's why a lot of the spots I fish are private spots, because like I'm a busy guy. I'm always grinding.
Yeah.
And fishing is kind of like my therapy. I like watching the sunset. I like seeing the wildlife. I don't want to deal with just weirdos.
Right.
I got my friends.
Get away. You want to choose who comes with you.
Yeah.
You don't run into a bunch of guys talking
like,
to you.
When I'm, like if you want to get the big ones, you got to go to those spots usually. But, I got private ponds that I have permission and fob keys to on people's property that I've helped do concrete work or whatever for whatever you got to do to get in there. And then I keep those spots pretty DL.
Under wraps, yeah. Like the one that I didn't tell you and
take,
tell someone else. Well, some people don't talk, and you know that. They're not. It's not my thing to go around and say where I've been and all that.
That's why a lot of the people I take are the skateboarders that don't even care about fishing. It might be their first time fishing. Oh, you want to go catch something? I'll take you to this private spot.
Yeah.
You might not. If you like it, you might not ever get a bite this good again.
Yeah, I remember we were barging the golf courses, and you brought out some skaters, and Cash Lake Googled who they were afterwards because they were just another person coming fishing, and he's like, oh my god, they're like on the Vans tour or X Games or whatever, and he's like, that guy rips. I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that. And he's like, I had no idea.
Well, that's like Bucky Lassick.
Right.
He kept.
That was cool. When you told me that, I thought that was really cool.
Dude, he hits me up a lot to go bass fishing.
Yeah. Bucky Lassick. When I
Him
was
and McGill go out. They have a boat. They go tuna fishing all the time.
Really?
He's like you. He's always hitting me up to try all the time. Let's go tuna fishing. I'm just.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to close the loop on that. So no, that's cool. When I was a kid, I had pictures of Bucky Lassick. There's one shot. It's a really old shot, and he's like from like the Midwest, right? Or
I forget
somewhere
exactly
not here,
Yeah.
And there's a picture of him on a mini doing a big ollie to fake, and there's like the backdrop, the sun setting. It's like a farm ramp or something, And I had he was like nobody. I was just like, this is an awesome shot, and I put it on the wall, and I had it up in with my Hensley and all the other stuff, and. Later he just started shredding, and like this guy like separated himself and became like a juggernaut, So
it's crazy.
It's
he can
pretty
still
cool.
Compete with, the kids.
Yeah.
He's just.
There's certain guys like that, like Bob and him, that are just like
freaks.
It's psycho what they do.
They're like superheroes.
Yeah, it's psycho what they do.
It's crazy.
So.
Well, I have a quick question for you before we end up. You live a very fascinating, amazing life, Josh. And what would you say has been your biggest lesson?
The struggle.
Really?
The struggle's a blessing.
You hustle. You work hard.
If I didn't have to struggle, I wouldn't ever have learned that. That's my biggest life lesson.
Just keep hustling.
Yeah. My stepdad taught me young,
That's really good.
If you want something, work hard for it.
And how do you pass that on to the young, the youngsters we have today?
I don't know.
You give them a tent and set it up once. Yeah, I'm not coming back. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
That's what you do.
Well, we sure appreciate your time today, and what a wealth of knowledge. We hope you'll come back. We wish you very much success, and thanks again for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Josh. And I can't
Anytime.
wait to. We're posting pictures of some bass. Because I'm taking them saltwater fishing. I'm stoked. So thanks, everybody.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.